Welcome to the Home Services Success Stories podcast powered by Peakzi, the #1 AI platform for growing your home services business. I'm Julian Placido, your host, and we have another great show in store for you today because today we have Dennielle Hearn, who is the administrative manager at Hearn Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Dennielle, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really well and excited to learn about your home services success story. So let's jump in. So,
Okay.
Dennielle, for those meeting you for the first time, tell us a bit about your role and how you and Tom lead the business together.
Yeah. I'm our administrative manager here. You already mentioned that. Um, our company is old. We're an 80-year-old company, but I married into this company. So I've been here. I've been married to my husband for 15 years. So about 16, 17 years of kind of understanding the ropes of Hearn. But I wasn't always part of this company. I actually was an operating room nurse for about 15 years before I joined full-time 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So when Tom and I met, it was a small company back then, 4 people, family owned and operated. And really, we meant it when we said that. There was, 4 people and everybody had the last name Hearn. So he needed somebody to do the book work. And of course, the girlfriend, right, is a great person to do the books at the business. So I started doing the books when it was really easy. The company grew. I was doing them just in my free time. And then as the company grew and our life got more complicated, my free time got less and the books got more. So about 10 years ago, I had to make the decision to either continue on with my nursing career or come full time to the business. And that's what I decided to do. In the early days, I I just did the books and Tom ran the business. And then we started to realize that we were a really great team together. So we started kind of honing our professional relationship and doing more and more together. And eventually we got to the point where we are now, which is running the operations of the company together.
Fascinating. So, operating nurse, what was that decision like to leave that career and do something completely different? Like, what did you
Mhm.
have to weigh out and what ultimately led to your yes?
Yeah, it was a very challenging decision for me. And to be quite honest, not one that I made all at once. I decided to leave my full-time position in nursing and come to the business full-ish time, but I still went to the operating room once a week. And then as my duties at the business grew, I eventually moved to once a month. And then, on around COVID time, things started changing very rapidly in hospitals. And I felt that I was doing more of a disservice by continuing to try to go and operate in that type of a climate where, medical staff was making a lot of changes. So about that time is when I decided finally to stop going altogether. But I still went. I would always say, it sounds so gruesome, but I was an operating room nurse. I used to say I have to get my hands bloody every once in a while. So, but yeah, so it was a tough decision, but being here, I felt like I was serving people there.
Hmm.
And when I first decided to come to the business, I didn't feel like I would be able to kind of scratch that itch of being a servant. And I found that I actually do it more here, right? I have a team of 20 people that are counting on me to make good decisions on their behalf. So it was a shift, but it's more of the same, which is taking care of people.
Interesting. Okay. So, what all does it mean to be the administrative manager? What aspects of the business do you own and run?
Mhm. So we have a call center manager, but she reports to me. So everything call center related, everything policy and procedure related, all of our HR, our health insurance, any big projects going on around here. We're still a small enough team that we don't have a marketing department. So Tom and I handle a lot of that together. What
Mhm.
kind of marketing campaigns are we interested in? How are we going to execute them? So it is a bit of a catch-all. And then also I participate a good bit with the technician side of the house too. So yeah, it is the official administrative manager title,
Mhm.
but I would say if there's something going on in this company, I have at least one hand in it.
I heard operations, marketing, you're kind of the Swiss Army knife right now in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
the business. So, I am curious, did your nursing background in any way, some way, somehow uniquely equip you for this?
Yes, sir.
How so?
Yes. So when I came here to a small family company, I sometimes felt like a fish out of water because I would say, well, how do you guys know what to do? Like, how does everyone know? How does everyone stay on the same page? What kind of like policy? Do you have anything in writing? And the answer was always no, right?
Mm.
So that was something that I felt like I could bring with me because operating rooms are very policy driven, right? There's certain ways to do things. And everyone does it the same, and everyone does it in a fashion that is, safe and efficient. So I think bringing that with me and just feeling comfortable getting those kind of programs in place and then also maintaining them and holding everyone accountable to them.
Wow. Always interesting to see kind of the unique equipping somebody brings into the business, right? So that's
Yeah.
fascinating. So talk to us a bit about Tom. What do you think makes Tom an effective leader, and how do your
Mhm.
strengths complement one another?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Tom is very much my exact opposite, especially here at work. He is very entrepreneurial. He's an idea guy. He'll say, "Oh, let's do, fill in the blank, anything." And I'm already thinking, okay, well, I have to do this, and we have to do this. We have to call this person. We have to prepare for this. He's already on to the next thing. So I always say, if I'm comfortable at work, then Tom's not doing a good job, right? He's always pushing. He's always keeping the pace quick. He's always on to the next, finding the next thing that he thinks is going to benefit us, rolling something out for our team, bringing something to my attention that he needs fixed. And I'm like, okay, like pump the brakes a little bit. So I would say he's the entrepreneur, he's the idea person, and then somebody has to be the party planner who makes everything happen, right?
Mhm.
And that's me. So I think if it was just me, I would be too comfortable, right? We'd just all kind of be status quo. And if it was just Tom, he'd have all these ideas that weren't getting accomplished. But we have them both. So I think that that makes us a really dynamic duo.
Beautiful. It's like the visionary
Mhm.
integrator relationship,
Mhm.
CEO, COO, and you just
Mhm.
wonderfully complement each other. That's great.
I agree. I have to say though, and just in case there are any husband and wife teams that happen to tune into this podcast, I don't want to make it sound like, oh yeah, we just like stumbled upon this. There was a lot of growing pains, right? It's hard working with your spouse. And also, it's hard to recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are. So I feel like we, for a long time, did a lot of this, right? A lot of just kind of butting heads and no, I'm actually really great at this. I have great ideas, or I'm a great. And it took us a while to go like, hold on a second. We both have things that we're really wonderful at, and they're not the same things. And that's okay. So I think once we stopped with that power struggle, if you compartmentalize it down and say, like, you're really good at this. Well, I think I should be really good at that too. Then it's really just our egos were getting in the way. So I think once we could kind of remove that ego from it, that's when we really started to pick up steam. But there were times when we didn't function well as a team because of that.
Interesting. So, what's the best advice? As you know, a lot of home services businesses are family businesses, right? So,
Mhm.
what would be your best advice to other home services leaders who work with a family to resolve conflict?
Yeah. I would say number one, good communication. If you can't, and good communication void of emotion. Um, I think that would be my number one advice would be learn how to communicate and get your point across and have differing opinions void of emotion. Because even to this very day, there are times that we start having a conversation about something we disagree, and you can kind of feel that temperature rising, right? That either becomes one of two things happen. Either the conversation is essentially over, right? Because then especially in families where we feel more comfortable voicing how we feel, right?
Mhm.
Normally at work, we're a little bit more tight-lipped. We don't always say the thing that we might think. We're a little freer, I think, sometimes with our families when we disagree. So either the conversation stops, or what we've gotten more skilled at is saying, you know what, this isn't productive. My thought on this is X, Y, and Z. It's okay if we disagree about it, but that's how I feel. And then kind of leaving it at that. Also, the other side of that is there has to be a hierarchy. Tom is the boss here,
Mm.
right? We do a lot of things together, but at the end of the day, the general manager at this company is Tom Hearn. So
Mm.
he's my boss. And sometimes I'll say that, right? At the end of the day, you have the ultimate decision. I gave you my input. We can talk about it further if you want to, or we can take a step back from it, but it's your decision, right? So, and then I have to accept that. So again, I think it's just constantly taking our egos and setting them aside and communicating well through that. Because it's really easy not to. It's easy to be like, well, I'm your wife. I get a say, right? Or I'm your daughter, or I'm your son, or whatever it is. And I feel like I am in some way entitled to my opinion or my emotional outburst or whatever it may be, when actually it just sidelines us. It doesn't do any good.
Wow. So the three keys I heard there's number one, always setting the ego aside. Number two,
Mhm.
open and transparent communication. And number three, respect the hierarchy. So
Yes.
I think those are really good points. I'm curious, does any of it ever bleed from professional to personal? And if so, any ideas there?
Yeah. Yes, I think it does. I hear people oftentimes say, that you shouldn't talk about work at home. And I think that there is a degree of truth in that. However, long ago, I would feel kind of guilty if we were talking about work at home, right? Like, oh, we shouldn't be talking about this. We shouldn't be consumed by it. But at the end of the day, our lives, our personal and professional lives are very commingled, right? So I think that having a conversation over dinner or making dinner, right? And being like, hey, did you see that email that came through? Yeah, what do you think about it? In a little bit more of a relaxed environment.
Hmm.
I think that that's completely acceptable. I think that the problems come when you start uh, working all the time, right? Well, now we're home. We have, 4 more hours tonight. Let's dive into that project that we have to work on, and let's do this and let's do that. I think that that can become a slippery slope. Um, but I think that and I also think that being good communicators at work has forced us to be good communicators and disagreeers in
Hmm.
our home life too, because we're practicing that a lot and it just comes a little more natural now to say, you know what, this isn't serving us right now, or there's a better way that we can handle this. And so let's take a step back.
What an interesting case study you and your husband are. Y'all should teach seminars on this type of topic. I think that's interesting. So back to the business. So you started as a
Yeah.
bookkeeper, you grew into leading administrations. You kind of saw this sort
hmm
of ground up approach. So what
hmm
have you seen are the most important systems to build within a home services business?
I think I would say, and maybe I've already touched on it, I think clear policies and procedures, having something, having a good foundation, right? And that good foundation is, I'm just going to rattle off a couple of things that come to my mind. A good company handbook, right? A
Mhm.
safety manual, policies about things like how we request time off and, what we do if we want to call off sick for the day, right? Things like that, where it's like, I'm doing it this way, you're doing it this way, driving vehicles, right? What are our expectations of everyone on our team? And do we have those somewhere where it's clear and it's consistent across the board? So I think that that is the most important thing, especially for us small guys, right? Because you don't need it until you need it. And oftentimes when it's just your family or it's your family and a couple buddies and they help you out sometimes when you have extra work, it's a whole lot different than when you start bringing people in and they have an expectation of you to lead them and to treat them in a fashion that is professional. So I would say that that's number one. And number two is holding a team of people accountable to that, which can also be its own separate can of worms, right? Sometimes accountability is really difficult. So I think laying the foundation and then holding people accountable to that foundation that you have in place, I would say are two very, very important building blocks to grow.
So I think really good points indeed. Handbook, policies, and also accountability
Mhm.
to them. So, Hearn is unique in the sense that you are a mature business. You've been around for a while, having
Mhm.
served family since 1946.
Mhm.
So, as a third generation business, how do you think about stewardship versus ownership?
We don't.
Okay.
We think only about stewardship, to be completely frank.
All right.
Um, I would say ownership is a privilege that
Mhm.
comes along with being a good steward to the people that you're serving. Right?
Mhm.
If we didn't take good care, we're from a small town. If we didn't take good care of this community, if we weren't fair and transparent with our customers, if we weren't fair and transparent with our team, then we wouldn't have the privilege of owning a company in this small town. So I would say we focus on that none. That is uh the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right?
Mhm.
But the stewardship part is where we give all of our energy. How do we continue to make a positive impression on this community so they want to partner with us and allow us to continue to own a business here?
Beautifully said. So let's speak a bit more about that and specifically about your customers, because you often say your
hmm
customers are your neighbors.
hmm
So how does that reality change in the way that you you make decisions, and how does it show up in real life when you're working with them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So I know we say that a lot, but I have to just point out that our neighbor is actually our customer,
Hmm.
like my physical neighbor right next door.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And many, many people, like I said, small town living, you can't really hide from that, right? So I would say the way that affects us is it forces us to be more thoughtful
Mm,
about our decisions that we make, because there is no there's no middlemen, right? There's no one that could kind of absorb any type of negativity or confrontation if we made a decision that had a really bad effect on our customers or our community or our team. There's you can just go directly to the people that made the decision. So I think that without having any cushion, right, around you, like, well, if it's a bad decision, then someone else will have to handle that fallout long before it gets to me. We don't have that privilege.
mm.
And we're small enough that, you know, no news spreads like bad news, right? So we're small enough that in a community like this, even something like a Facebook community page, you start mistreating people in the community or you make decisions that are not advantageous for your customer base or a small town and people that are living in it. Then I think that it's very, very easy for that to spread very quickly. So we always keep that in mind. That doesn't mean that we have to in any way, we're going to make the decisions that we think are good decisions. And sometimes good decisions are hard. But I just think it makes us thoughtful. It makes us a little bit more thoughtful about what the impact may be to people that we care about and people that we know well.
Yeah, I think it increases your empathy, your thoughtfulness,
Mhm.
like you said, and also it actually
Yeah.
acts as a kind of a self-accountability measure because, like you said, your literal next door
Yes.
neighbor is your neighbor. So I think those are really
Yes.
interesting points. Something else that you're very upfront with your customers
Mhm.
is upfront pricing. So why
Yes.
is transparency and around pricing so important to you as a business?
Mhm. Well, I think that it all really distills down to us focusing very heavily on customer service, right? So in order to offer good customer service to people, we feel like we have to be transparent with them, right? Because otherwise we're creating potential friction, right? We're creating fear, we're creating anxiety, right? Because they just don't know what's coming next. So in order to eliminate that and make sure that everyone knows every step of the way, we're going to be here with you. We're going to allow you, our customer, to make the choice about what you want to do, how you want to partner with our company, right? We're the educators, and in the end, we're the doers, but they're the decision makers. So we kind of feel that if we aren't transparent with them about things like pricing, then we become the decision maker, not them.
Well, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. So eliminating the friction, giving them a sense of control, giving them actual
Mhm.
control, giving them
Yeah,
options and allowing them to choose and to be partners in solving their own solution, right? So I think
absolutely.
those are good points. You have 20 employees now, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So tell us about how would you describe your company culture and what makes your team unique and stand out as home services leaders?
Oh man. I got to brag about all these people now. I don't know
Let's
where to
hear it.
start. They're so wonderful. I always say, I feel like I'm like the little mother hen around here. Some of them are older than me, many of them are younger than me, but I just feel like they sometimes they tease my husband and I and call us mom and dad. They're like, don't talk like that in front of mom and dad, like when they're talking about something, but they're a wonderful group. We're very, very cautious about growing this team and the people that we bring onto this team because they're such a tight-knit, close group of people.
Mhm.
So something that we always say, and I think it's very true, we can we can teach someone plumbing, we can teach someone HVAC, we can teach you how to diagnose systems and read wiring charts and run a sewer snake. But what we can't teach is we can't teach you to be a good person. We
Mhm.
can't teach you to have a servant's heart. We can't teach you to genuinely care about people and want to serve people like we do here. So I think that something that makes this team unique is that every single person on this team has a servant's heart. If they don't, then they join our team and then they leave quickly because they're like, this isn't for me. So that's one side, right? The other side is that we get after it. We're not a big group, right? Being elite is our standard here. We run a very, very tight ship, and we have a high expectation in regards to being technically sound and serving our customers well. So they're all a bit kind of a unicorn, right? They have to be very, very good, but they also have to want to care about people and serve people and be humble and take good care. So I think that those two things paired together is what makes our team unique. Having one or the other maybe isn't so unique, but the two of them together, I think it takes a special person.
Tell us a bit about more about your hiring and your interviewing process. How do you suss
Mhm.
out a person to have a servant's heart?
Yeah. So our interview process is lengthy, very lengthy. And someone said to me long ago, and I think it's so true. Someone said to me, if you give someone the opportunity to show you who they are, they will. They will. We are all dying to tell the world who we are, right? So I think sometimes in one interview, someone can come in and say, I know who I'm supposed to be to get a seat at this table, right? And I'm going to do it. I'm going to be on best behavior. But then I think before long, if we're not a good fit for someone or they're not a good fit for us, it just becomes so blaringly obvious because we're all just the longer we're together, the more we get comfortable. And I don't want to make the claim that people aren't good enough to be on our team. It's just that they have a different set of values, or they have something else that they're driven to do, or another comfort level with people and communication and all of that. We have a lot of people that have been on our team and then left to go do something like new construction, right? They don't want to work in the residential market. So that being said, what we do is we bring people in for an interview. At the end of the first interview, when we tell them, you got to be a servant to work here, you got to want to get after it every day to work here. We're a tight crew. We demand excellence on this team. We give them an application, which seems a little backwards. And I tell them, if this brings true to you, who we are, then you bring this application back to me. And
Hmm.
if I don't get it back, then I'll high five you when I see you at the grocery store, right? And I'll know that this wasn't a good fit for you, and that's okay. If we get the application back, then we start a ride along process. We bring them in for a minimum of 3. They come in, they get in one of our uniforms, and they go out in our trucks with our guys, serving our customers and visiting with our technicians. They can ask all the questions they didn't want to ask us. They can kind of see what a day in the life is all about. And then we're following up with them at the end of every day and asking them how their experience was. We're also following up with our team and asking them what their thoughts are. And at this point, they're really good. Our team is really good at picking out people that they think either would be really great fits on our team, or people that they're like, I don't think that this person wants what we have to offer here. Maybe they don't realize it yet, but we do. So we've heard a lot of that feedback with people that, ended up not joining our team.
Interesting, interesting. So I heard
Hmm.
it's a very defined process.
Hmm.
And I heard also that you're very upfront about your values and unapologetic about it because you will
Yes.
attract the people that match it and repel the ones that don't.
Hmm.
Right along, so there's like an experiential aspect to it. And also that's a good way for your team to spot eyes on that person to see if they match the culture. I think those are all really
Yep.
great points. So as you mentioned, you oversee a lot of different things. Swiss Army knife,
Hmm.
one of those things is marketing, right? So you're a customer of
Yeah.
Peakzi. The show is powered by Peakzi.
Hmm.
So tell us,
Hmm.
what has been your experience working with Peakzi?
Hmm. Peakzy has been wonderful. So I feel like when you talk about a Swiss Army knife, they're a bit of a Swiss Army knife for me, because especially as AI starts to just bloom, right, in today's world, it's scary, and there's so much of it that is a big unknown. And so I feel like Peakzy kind of helping us navigate that has been invaluable. We're getting marketing insight into what's happening in our marketplace. What is our competition up to? How are things looking for us, right? We're getting all these metrics that can be really helpful in regards to us making marketing decisions. But I think the thing that gives me the most, helps me sleep the best at night is maybe a good way to say it, is just knowing that someone that understands this AI machine much, much more than me is in our corner and is helping us to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward in that realm.
What have you found to be the most useful features to you?
I would say number one, we just created an AI website. which I think was great, right? A website that is geared towards AI and how AI is interacting with us as a business. I think that's been really great. And the other one is seeing not only how we are performing in our marketplace, but also a comparison, us and our competition, because sometimes it feels like, what are we doing wrong right now? And then we, go and pull those reports and see like, actually, there's a downturn for everyone right now. Maybe we're all just doing it wrong together, or it just happens to be a bit of a little blip on, on the radar and it's going to go away. So I think that those type of things help us make more educated decisions.
Great. So I heard the AI website because
Hmm.
a regular website doesn't interact with AI the same way that an
Hmm.
AI website does. That's one. The second one
Hmm.
is I heard market insights to see
Hmm.
what's actually happening from an empirical level based on
Yeah.
data on how you can adjust your marketing. I think that's great. What would you say have been the most significant outcomes so far in the business
Hmm.
having using Peakzi?
Hmm. I would say that the most significant outcome that we're starting to see is just the way that AI is recognizing us. I
Mm.
think that that's a big one, right? And knowing that it's fresh enough that we're going to be able, we're not going to be playing catch up in regards to AI's impression of our company or the things that we're seeing on there. We're going to kind of get out ahead of that. So I think that for me, that's been a big one because I mean, I'm going on there and looking at our business and searching different ways. And sometimes the things that AI is delivering is like, oh wow, how did they even know that? Where did they find that? So just knowing that we're putting good information into the hands of these machines so that it can, hopefully educate people appropriately and not miseducate people about our company.
I think those are really great insights. So thank you for sharing
Hmm.
that. So anything
Hmm.
else you'd like to mention about Peakzi before we start to close things out, Danielle?
I think they're great. I think
Awesome.
they're great. Our and also, our even just our account management has been, yeah, I think they're great. I think if anyone listening to this has not already went and taken a look at Peakzy and talked with them about what they can offer to them, I think that you're already behind.
Love it. You heard it from Danielle herself then. So thank you so much for sharing those
Hmm.
words. So to close things out, the business has been around for a long time, and you seem to strike me as someone who isn't just doing this as a job or as a business, but someone who really cares and makes an impact. So
Hmm.
looking long term, what is your vision for the business? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind for your team, your customers, your community?
Yeah. That is something that we ponder here often. And I used to focus maybe more on solid, grandiose goals, right? I want to do this. I want to, this revenue, this amount of this many people, all of these things. And I started to realize a couple years ago that kind of like how we were talking about ownership versus stewardship earlier, those things are really just kind of the icing on top because they don't matter and they don't happen without the important things. And the important things for us is always the people side of the house, whoever those people are, our customers, our competitors, our team, right? Those are the important things. So I've kind of distilled it down a little bit and I don't focus so much on the horizon and I try to focus more on what's happening, what can I do today?
Hmm.
Right? What can I do tomorrow? And I think at the end of the day, my hope for our legacy is that people recognize that we are a team or a family that's developed into a team of good people doing the right thing and doing that even when it's not popular, right? Trying to the best of our ability to make good decisions that have a positive impact. And I heard someone say it long ago, and I can't even remember where I heard it, but it has stuck with me. And it really is my mantra that in every aspect, I want to leave it better than I found it.
Hmm.
I want to leave people on our team better than I found them, even if for some reason they separate from our team, right? I hope that they walk away from this team a better person than they joined. Our customers, same thing, right? Our community, I want to leave it all just a little bit better than I found it. And I think that if I focus on that instead of what the big pictures are, then that helps me to, in my day-to-day decisions, know that I'm making good ones.
I love that. I think a great way to look at things indeed. So, Dennielle, if you would close us out sharing your website, your social
Mhm.
media, how do folks connect with you?
Yes. So website is www.hearnph.com. You can find us on Facebook. I would say it's probably Facebook /HearnPH. Our phone number, 440-428-3905, has been our phone number for 80 years now. Probably not quite 80, but a very long time, much longer than anything else that we have that phone number on calendars from probably the 60s. So yeah, we're visible. We're visible on Facebook. We don't have Instagram, but you can find our website's always updated. You can chat in on our website, so we're easy to get a hold of.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to have all your contact information in the show notes as well. So, Dennielle, this has been a real joy to get to know you. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I really do.
And that is it for today's episode. So, thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Home Services Success Stories podcast powered by Peakzi, the #1 AI platform for growing your home services business.